All right. Welcome everyone to our Learning Burst Teaching Kitchen today. Today we are going to learn how to make a zucchini bread morning oats recipe. So a little bit of a twist on your morning oatmeal because we get an added serving of veggies. So we'll learn how to make that and we'll talk a little bit about the health benefits along the way. So let's get started. First things first, we want to prep our zucchini, one of the main ingredients of today's recipe. So all I'm doing is I'm just going to use a grater and I'm going to go on the finest part of the grater just because you want it to be a little bit finer for the recipe we're making. I think because when it's a little bit finer, it will end up being a little bit easier to mix in with the rest of the ingredients. So you'll see here, pretty fine. So you're going to do that and you want about a cup of it. Now, let's say you're at home and you've got a food processor and you're like, I'm not grating anything today. That seems like a little bit too much. That's perfectly fine. You can use a food processor. It's a little bit quicker. I just like to do it by hand. Either way, perfectly fine. Now, one of the main reasons I absolutely love adding something like a zucchini to my recipes is because, no offense to zucchini, but zucchini is relatively bland, right? So think about when you're usually eating zucchini, unless you've like put some salt and pepper and olive oil or some seasonings on it, there's really not a whole lot of flavor to it. But tell you what, that makes it the world's easiest thing to add to a bunch of your recipes, whether it's sweet, whether it's savory. I know I actually love using zucchini for a lot of like my muffins, my baked goods, just because it adds moisture without adding a bunch of calories like from oil or if you have to use butter. So that's actually one of the main reasons I love using this in a recipe like this. So we've got our grated zucchini. We're just going to set that off to the side. Now, second thing we want to do is get our oats going. So today we're going to be using a steel cut oatmeal. Now, I like using the steel cut oatmeal just because it does have a little bit more of a nuttier texture. It's a little bit more dense, a little bit more chewy, which again, I like that flavor. But if you'd like something that's maybe a little bit more simple, a little bit quicker, you can also use a rolled oats. Now, next I'm putting in just a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of chia seed, about a fourth a cup of those chia seeds. And then I'm just gonna mix it all up before I get started here. So you'll see, I'll actually even show you. And you just wanna mix it up so that it's even, right? So you'll see in there, easy. And then I'm gonna turn my stove on. And then once you've got that mixed up, then you can add in your milk. I have a little bit of almond milk here just because honestly, that's the flavor I like. But if you want to use a regular milk, if you even want to use an oat milk, it's really up to you in what flavor you like. But I like to do the unsweetened ones. So then I'm going to pour that in and just mix it up. Now, like I said, you can do the steel cut oats or you can do the rolled oats, which actually I have here. So this is what those rolled oats look like. Now, if you do something like the steel cut oats, they are going to take a little bit longer just because they're not prepared or processed in a way that helps the cooking process go quicker. So it takes a little bit longer, closer to like that 20-minute mark, which totally fine if you've got the time and you like that texture. The rolled oats are processed in a way where it helps that cooking process go a little bit faster. Now, there is absolutely nothing wrong with doing it that way. Both are going to give you the same amount of benefit. So you're going to get the same amount of fiber, same amount of nutrients from them. It's just based on what you like for flavor and what kind of time you have in the morning, which I know all of us are usually on a time crunch. Now, while that is cooking, we're just going to let that kind of stir. In fact, I'm going to put on my lid, just keep the heat in there. The next thing I'm going to do is prep some of my toppings. So I've got a little bit of peanut butter here, just your regular old peanut butter, nothing crazy, and actually a little bit of water. So I'm going to put that water in there. And what I'm doing is I'm just making a topping that I can drizzle over the top. So again, Another nice thing about using something like a peanut butter is it gives you added flavor, and there's a little bit of protein in it too. But what I like to do is I like to mix it so that it's kind of a drizzle. I don't know if that's just me being a little bit extra or if everybody else likes to do that at home, but that way you can drizzle it on the top and it's almost like a little bit of a sauce. So you can do that, or you can also add something like a maple syrup. So I love to add something like maple syrup, just gives it a little bit of sweetness, or I've also got chocolate chips. So after we've gotten that ready, our toppings ready, we can check our oats. And yep, they look perfect. It's going to take them a little while to cook, but what you'll notice is the chia seeds are gonna give it a little bit of more of like a gel-like structure, and that's totally fine. That's actually normal. You want that to happen. What it's doing is it's just essentially absorbing some of that moisture that you're getting, and then it'll create more of like a pudding or like a yogurt texture, which I actually love. And chia seeds are stock full of omega-3 fatty acids, which we actually have to get into our diet. And they're super high in fiber, more so even than our oats. So this is going to be just full of fiber, which is going to help you feel full in the morning. Another reason I absolutely love this recipe. Now that it started to cook a while, I just let it get to a boil. I'm actually going to add in my zucchini. So you just want to fold it in. Now you can add as much or as little as you like, but just pay attention to the water content because zucchini is actually stock full of water, which, you know, if you're baking, sometimes it's really nice to have that water content because it makes it more of a, it makes it have a little bit more moisture. I'm also going to add in my vanilla. Now that will help give it a little bit of moisture, but if let's say you were cooking zucchini with more of a savory dish, you're probably going to want to squeeze the moisture out of the zucchini. Then it'll take on a little bit more of the flavor of whatever you have. But in this sense, we're actually using some of that moisture to cook our oats. So I'll show you what it looks like. Right here, you can see it's just starting to get a little bit more of that gel consistency. You can kind of see those chia seeds putting themselves to use in here. Now, this is going to have to cook for about 15-20 minutes. You'll start to notice it will have a little bit more of that pudding consistency. You want to try and make sure that the oats are done themselves just because we're using those steel cut ones. But once it is done, it's going to come out something like this. So again, it'll have a little bit more of that pudding. It'll be really chewy because you're using a steel cut oat, and it is so good. But I will say everything is better with just a touch of sweetness and a little bit of peanut butter. At least that's what I think. So I'm going to add a little bit of peanut butter on top. Again, I gave it a little bit more of like a drizzle consistency. And then I'm also going to add some pecans. So because it is a little bit more of a pudding texture, I like to give it an added crunch. And guess what? That's a little bit extra fiber too. So extra fiber, extra protein, and you want that because you want it to be filling. If it's not filling, you're going to end up feeling full an hour later. So that is why I absolutely love adding a little bit of extra nuts if I can. And then the last thing I'm going to add, like we talked about, chocolate chips. So same concept as you want it to be filling, you want it to be satisfying too. I love a little bit of chocolate, even in the morning. I know it's okay to do that with some of your meals. I love adding a little bit of chocolate chips just because it makes it a little bit more satisfying. And then same concept. You're not going to want something sweet an hour later. So you might as well make it satisfying because then the meal is enjoyable to you and it's going to be filling. So your final product is going to have, it's going to have a little color, it's going to have a little texture, and it is going to be super tasty. We're going to take a bite. Of course, we're going to get chocolate chips. So good. I would eat this for lunch too. But like I said, it's really satisfying just because you get all of the different textures, but also when you're adding in something like zucchini, you're getting more volume to your meals without adding a bunch of extra calories from the oils or the butters or whatever it is you're usually adding to your meals to give you a little bit more of that satisfaction. So I always encourage people to think about what can we be adding to our diets versus taking away. What are we adding to our diets to help give it a little bit more of that enhancement, a little bit more of those antioxidants, vitamins like vitamin C and E from the zucchini and minerals. So I encourage people to start thinking about that. What can I start adding to my diet, even in the morning, if it's zucchini in your morning oats? So I hope you guys make this at home. I hope you would enjoy it as much as I do. And if you're looking for more of these teaching kitchens, I encourage you to go to Let's Move by UHC.com. All right. Thanks, guys.